Okay, so we want our linear equations, which we haven't even studied them yet, but we're getting into linear equations very, very soon. And you want to be able to identify the slope and y-intercept. So in order to do that, you want it to look like this. Number one, when you have it in this form, you can identify the slope, the one that's attached to the x, and the y-intercept, the constant by itself. The other thing you can do is graph with it, and you can then use your what button in your calculator? Your y equals button. If it looks like this, you can't do any of those things. You can't identify the slope, you can't identify the y-intercept, and you can't use your y equals button, and you can't graph. Does that make sense? So these are literal equations, but they're all going to have a y and an x in them, and every single one, I want you to solve it to look like this. So every single thing we're going to solve for which variable? Y. For y. All right, so let's get started. If I want to get the y by itself, what do I need to move? Just the 2x. So I want to move the entire 2x, so how would I move a 2x? Minus 2x. I cannot combine it with anything, so I'm just moving it to the right. So I have y equals now. If I want it in this form, which one of these am I going to write first? What kind of value does it have? So I would write negative 2x, and since the 7 has a positive value, I would write plus 7. Now, yes, you would technically still be correct if you wrote y equals 7 minus 2x, but I am asking you to put them in mx plus b form, so I do want the slope with the variable first. Make sense? All right, let's do this one. I am solving for y. So what do I have to get rid of? There's two things that have got to go. The term 5x and the coefficient 4. Which one do I get rid of first? The term. All right, so I'm going to subtract 5x. So I have 4y equals, which one of these would I write first? What kind of value does it have? So I have negative 5x. What kind of value does 10 have? So plus 10. Now here's the deal. Yesterday I told you to get rid of the 4, you can divide both sides by 4, yes? But today I want you to take it that step further because I want it to look like this. I don't want it to look, don't write this down. I don't want it to look like this and all be over like 2. I want it simplified, a slope and a y-intercept. Does that make sense? So yes, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. But instead of doing this entire thing divided by 4, I'm going to do each part divided by 4 so that I can simplify those fractions and then I can identify the slope and the y-intercept. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. So all you have to do is simplify the fractions. I don't want decimals either. Why do you not want a decimal as a slope? Did y'all graph last year with slope? How do you graph a slope? Remember, rise? You need a fraction for a rise over run, yes? So that's why we like to leave them in fraction form. So negative 5/4 does not simplify. If you want to see, you can go to alpha y equals and put in negative 5/4. It's just going to say, hey, it stays that. So you leave it, negative 5/4 x. Is the x underneath the fraction or out to the side? Out to the side. Plus, now let's see if 10/4 will simplify. Which it will because they're both even numbers, which is 5/2. Now, I am okay with the y-intercept being a decimal because when you graph, it makes more sense for it to be a decimal, but I'm fine with you leaving it as 5/2. So you could put 2.5 or 5/2. Any questions? Yes or no? Or everybody, yes ma'am.
Can you put this in y equals?
Yep. So once, her question is, can you put this in y equals? Once you rearrange it, yes. And then it'll actually go graph for you. So just to show y'all, we're not doing this today. But now that I rearrange this, I can go to y equals and I can put in negative 2x plus 7. When I hit graph, now my windows are set really, really big. So I'll go show y'all. I'll change them. When I hit graph, it's going to have a slope of -2, which means down to right 1, intersecting through the y-axis at 7. And do y'all see the blue thing that says table? If I hit second graph, it'll give me a table of numbers for that line. So which we're going to actually have a whole lesson over that, but I can't teach you that lesson until you can put it in your calculator, right? So you have to be able to rearrange these equations. All right, good question. All right, on this next one, quick question. Do we want the y on the right or the left? We want it on the left, so could I just go like this and say equals 12? You see what I'm saying? Like just an easy way to like switch those around real quick. All right, I'm solving for y, so what's the first thing I'm going to get rid of? The 9x. How would I get rid of a 9x? Minus 9x. So I have 3y equals, which one of these am I going to write first? Negative 9x. Is it plus 12 or minus 12? Plus 12. All right, how am I going to get rid of the coefficient of 3? Divide everything by 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. Now, yesterday, y'all do understand that I was teaching you to do it like this. 3y equals negative 9x plus 12, and we were going like this, yes? Divide by 3. And I was allowing y'all to leave it like this because it's easier with like all those variables. Okay, but this means the same thing as this. Does that make sense? Okay. So now I'm going to simplify. What is negative 9 divided by 3? Negative 3 plus my x. And then plus what's 12 divided by 3? 4. So my slope is 3 and my y-intercept is 4. Excuse me, my slope is negative 3. Yeah, you would have, like, so if I was graphing, it would be negative 3 over 1. So I would rise down 3, right 1. But we're going to have a whole lesson over that. Okay, this one, I'm solving for y. Question, do I subtract 18x or add 18x? I have, every year I have a student say, oh, I'm going to add because there's a minus sign. Does that minus sign belong to the 18 or the 2? So if I want to zero out 18x, how would I do that? I would minus. So don't let that subtraction sign confuse you. It doesn't belong to the 18x. It belongs to the 2. So what do I have to bring down with that 2y? A negative 2y. And I have negative 18x plus 26. All right, to get rid of the negative 2, what am I going to do? Divide everything by negative 2, and then I'm going to simplify. So I have y equals negative 18 divided by negative 2 is positive 9, and then 26 divided by negative 2 is negative 13. So you could write minus 13, or you could write plus negative 13, and either one is perfectly fine. And guys, I'm telling y'all right now, this is one of the main lessons that you need to master for my class. Okay, a lot of my class, you're going to have to rearrange an equation before you can do anything with it. Okay, all right, I want y'all to try this one on your own. What do you think you should do first, though? I'd probably go like this and start from there. So I'm going to give y'all a second to do that one. Check your first step and make sure you did it right. Yes? Divide everything by 7. Can 6/7 simplify? No, so I leave it 6/7. Where will the x go? Out to the side plus 2. So my rise is 6, my run is 7, and my y-intercept is 2. All right, try the next one on your own. Check your first step if you need to. What could have gone in front of this x? A 1. It has a rise and run of 1. 1 over 1. Do I have to write that? No. But if you do, it's perfectly fine.
Why would it be minus?
Positive 5 divided by negative 8? Or plus negative. So if you put plus negative, you're good. That's a negative. As long as there's only one negative sign, you're good. So his thing was, could it say this? Yes. Could that negative be with the 8 instead? Yes. What would be wrong is if you had 2 negatives there, because 2 negatives make a positive. Questions? Okay, flip to the back. We're not going to do all of these. Let's just go do the left side. All right, what am I solving for? So what's got to go? The 2. How am I going to get rid of a 2? Minus 2. Can I combine it with something over here? With the 4. So I'm left with 6y. This is why I should use pencil. Let me just scratch it out. I'm left with 6y equals 3x, and 4 minus 2 is positive 2. Now I need to get rid of the 6 by division, so I divide everything by 6. So I have y equals, and I simplify my fractions. 3 6 reduces to 1/2, and 2 6 reduces to 1/3. Now, no matter what, I would never change that third to a decimal because it's a repeating decimal. Good? Am I going too fast or y'all okay? Good? All right, let's do the next one. I'm solving for y, so what's got to go? The 9. Does that minus sign belong to the 9 or the 0.5? So how would I get rid of this positive 9? Minus 9. So I have negative 0.5y equals 2.5x minus 9. Okay, I'm now going to divide by negative 0.5. So 2.5 divided by negative 0.5 is negative 5x. Now question. This minus sign gives the 9 what kind of value? Because if I change, it becomes plus negative, yes? And what do 2 negatives make? So I just need to do 9 divided by 0.5, which is positive 18. Do y'all think this is easier than yesterday's literal equations? And guys, it's the exact same thing. The only difference is there's only an x and a y, and you're always solving for y. So you're just getting in the routine of doing the same thing. But it's the exact same thing. All right, let's go do the next one. I'm solving for y. How am I going to get rid of that 5x? Ooh. What made him say plus? What do y'all think? This minus sign right here. What does that minus sign belong to, though? The 3y. So if I want to get rid of a positive 5x, I have to subtract 5x. So I have negative 3y equals negative 5x plus 9. I'm going to divide everything by negative 3. And I'm left with y equals, what's a negative divided by a negative? So I have 5/3 x. What's a positive divided by a negative? Minus 3. Could I also put plus -3? Is it the same thing? Yes. All right, on this last one, what am I going to have to do first before I go do anything? Distributed property. Okay, what am I going to do first before I do distributed property? Change. So I have 4 times 2x, which is 8x, plus 4 times negative y is negative 4y. What am I solving for? So do you think I should combine all the y's first? So I need to pull this y to this side. Does everybody agree? So I'm going to do that by subtraction. So I have 8x plus negative 6y equals 6. Now I can go get the y by itself by getting rid of the 8x. How would I get rid of the 8x? Minus 8x. So I have negative 6y equals negative 8x plus 6. And how am I going to get rid of the coefficient negative 6? Divide everything by negative 6. And then I have to simplify. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 8/6 simplifies to 4/3 if I divide the top and bottom by 2. And then what's a positive divided by a negative? So 6 divided by 6 is 1, so minus 1 or plus negative 1. Okay, I will pass out. All right, there are only 20 questions. There are no word problems. At the top of your page, I want you to write this so you know I want all of your answers in this form. I don't want b plus mx. Even though it's the same thing, I want you to write it in this form. Does everybody understand? And I want it simplified. Do not tell me that you have 3/12 x when 3/12 can be simplified. Yes? Everybody understand? All right, get busy.